In this video, I would like to show you how to quickly create Kontakt instruments in an automated way, and they will be kind of optimized for the option of putting them on Maschine Plus as well. So there will be the ability to play them on desktop, obviously, but they would kind of be built for putting them on Maschine Plus. Now, let's imagine you have a set of a bunch of samples. So in this case, I have all these samples that I sampled from a Moog drummer from another mother, just basically oscillator sounds. I have about 20 over here, I guess, and each sound is just one note for each sample, and we have note 60 to 96, and we have, as we mentioned, 20 different of these sounds. So we would like a way to quickly map them into Kontakt, and maybe not just them, right? Maybe tomorrow we have a different synth, we have something else that we want to map, and we want to kind of be able to do this really quickly and not have to do everything manually. So we need a way to map the samples, but maybe we also want to manipulate them a little bit. If you've seen some of my other videos, I mentioned this before. If we go now into this sample, we see that it's 96 kilohertz and 24 bits per sample, while Maschine Plus will only, not only, but the engine, it plays 16 bits and 44 kilohertz. So there is no sense in providing 96K and 16-bit samples. It's just going to be bigger and take much more space on the user's SD card. So again, no sense to do it. So maybe we would like kind of a way to also convert the sample rate, for example. So this is where this little webpage comes in, and this link is in the video description. And this webpage basically leverages the power of the Lua scripting tool in Creator Tools, the companion app for Kontakt, and will kind of provide a higher level abstraction of the Lua functionality and let us basically do what we want to do, which is get these samples correctly into Kontakt, also with a KSP script and some other stuff that we would like happening. So the first thing you would need to do is you need to actually download this framework. If you click on this button, it will download the framework. You can unzip it, you can put it anywhere on your computer. And to make full use of the framework, you will need some of the you need to download some extra stuff. So for example, here we would like to make use of the audio tools. We will see, everything will be driven home in a minute, but let me just explain kind of what you need. So if we would like to use these audio tools, then we would also need to download SOX, which is a command line tool for manipulating audio files. And we're basically kind of embedding it into our Lua paradigm over here. And once you download it and install it, then our Lua scripts can kind of make use of SOX in order to do the stuff that we need. So in this case, convert sample rate and convert bit depth, and we'll also do some normalizing, for example. So if everything is you just downloaded it and prepare it as normal, you probably, I don't know, you might need or you might not need to change the path over here, depends on where you install it, but just make sure that in these fields over here for SOX and for FLAC, basically we won't be using FLAC in this example, but if you would want to use it, then you put the correct paths in here before you export the variables, which we will be doing in a minute. So let's move forward for a minute. You prepared SOX, you downloaded the framework, and now you want to kind of do your thing and prepare your instruments. So just to mention that this page itself, all these variables that you're setting over here, in the end, what we're going to do is we're going to be clicking here and exporting these variables. And if you look, you see that again, it's just a text file. It's just a list of variables, right? So this page basically just prepares this variables list. It's not the actual script itself that we will be running. We're just preparing a list of kind of, I don't know, like instructions for the script, right? Like different things that we would like it to do. So again, we mentioned that now we would like to kind of manipulate the audio. We would like to map the samples, and we would like to set a KSP script into our instrument. So we can basically just go through this and do all this. So first of all, verbose mode is turned on, just so verbose mode basically means just log stuff to the Creator Tools console. You will see it once we run the script. We're going to turn on the KSP script, telling basically telling the script to apply the Lua script to apply a KSP script into the instrument. we're going to, of course, need to set our samples path and our KSP path. So the best way to do this, in my opinion, is if you go into wherever you put the framework, so you don't work directly on your samples. So let's say my actual samples are over here, but yeah, copy them and put them somewhere in a subfolder of samples in the framework itself. So I only took 4 of my 20 or whatever I have in there, just so it's a little bit faster, but I took 4 of these subfolders, so 4 different sounds, and I copied it into the samples subfolder of the framework. So the samples are here, and I gave the correct path over here. Now I want to apply a certain KSP script. We will look at the KSP in a minute, but the KSP scripts are also that I'm going to be applying are also just directly in here. So I want to apply this one. So I just gave it the full path to where I put the framework, and yeah, just to this particular KSP script. We don't need to turn on anything. We don't want the script bypassed. We don't want it linked. We just want to apply the script, and we apply it to slot 0. I don't care if it's just called instrument, the script itself. So I'm all good with the rest over here. And then we move on to the other stuff that we want to do. So maybe first, before the mapping, let's look at the audio tools. So again, to do any of this, we need to kind of turn on the tool itself. So turning on audio tools, and then we're going to tell it to normalize each and one of these files just in case to -1 dB. So we kind of have it all nice, like peak alignment between all the samples. And we're going to tell it, like mentioned, to convert sample rate to 44K and to convert the bit depth to 16 bits. So these are the options that are already kind of set over here. And then the last thing we want to do is actually map the samples to Kontakt, right? So we're going to have the auto mapper turned on. We're going to look at the different, sample names. And as we can see, the actual name for each sample, so the name for each group would be the third token over here if we have the token separated by a dash. Look at the previous video that I posted for some more information about like all these tokens and things like that. But just to be really quick, so 1, 2, 3 would be the name of each group, and 4th token would be the actual note, the root note, and the actual low and high key, I guess in our case, of every single sample. So we will set sample name location to 3 and root key location to 4. Because we have 1 sample per note and we don't have velocity ranges or anything like that, we're going to hit key confine and we're going to hit velocity confine. We're going to keep the playback mode on DFD and make sure that the token separator, it's either an underscore in this framework or a dash. Here we have it as a dash, so make sure that it's a dash. And the last thing we want to do is I would like the script to find good loop points for each and one of these samples and apply them, and then apply a little bit of a crossfade so the loops aren't clicky or there's no like messing around with the loop points basically. So there's one more tool over here on the right, the sample set integrity. Let's not look into this one for this video. It's not really important for the flow of what we want to do. So what is important is already actually kind of set inside. This is basically the instructions that we want to give. Like we want to have an end result that this happens, and this happens. So audio tool, auto mapping, and KSP script is applied. We did all this. The last thing remaining for us to do is again to export this variable file. And as you remember, this is just again a file that has just a list of these parameters that we have set. What we need to do is we need to copy this file, and wherever we put the framework, so in my case it's over here, we need to go into the variables subfolder. I'll do this again slower. So variable subfolder, and we paste it over here, basically to replace the one that we had. So whenever you make like a new script that you want to run it with the actual variables that you want. So you would just basically go like this, and then the actual script that we want to run is not the variables file, obviously, it's the script instrument script.lua, which is over here. So we will be going into Creator Tools, into the Lua tab. It's already loaded, but yeah, just to mention, of course, like the workflow would be to drag it into this tool. Once it's dragged, we can run it, press play and run it. Really super important that in Kontakt you already have a open empty instrument in our case, so that it can apply everything that we do in the script into Kontakt. Now once I hit play, this will take a little bit of time. So it's starting to go over all the commands that we gave it per sample, right? We told it to, again, normalize, convert bit depth, convert sample rate, put it in a group depending, like if a new group needs to be created in the NCAI, then it will create a new group, and then it will put it in that group. And then the last thing, of course, is that it's going to be looking for loop points. So that's exactly what it's doing right now. You can see that it takes a little bit of time to do all of this. We can follow along. This is the verbose mode that we've been showing over here, right? So if this thing would have been off, we would have been getting nothing. We would have been just like looking at pressing play and waiting for it to say, okay, yeah, script complete. If verbose mode is turned on, then this is exactly what it does. It just tells it to print all this information to the console. Now, as you can see, it's creating a new group depending on each time that it finds. This is actually really cool to look at, right? It's like creating a new group as it should whenever it needs to. If it doesn't need to, then it says, okay, yeah, the group exists because it knows that this particular sample is like running order of the group that it already belongs to. And again, it's doing it for each and one of these samples. As you can see, it's setting the root and finding the loop start and the loop length for the end. So again, this takes a little bit. Once it's done, it tells us, yay, mapping complete, no errors. It also told us that, okay, I found your KSP script that you wanted, and it's going to apply the KSP script, and then it's ready. And the last thing for us to do is to push the Kontakt. We see the little dirty flag that says there's something that you can push. Let's do it. Again, we only did 4 of these groups. If we had more, then it would have just done more. And yay, it just did it. The last thing I guess we need to do, I think this is a bit of a bug over here. It put the KSP script inside, but it never applied it. So I guess we can just go and hit apply. And once we do it, it would be applied over here. Once this is applied, I think maybe we should have had some minimal values over here. I saw that the cutoff was closed and the lo-fi was all the way to the bottom, but in general, we have our script. So it's not just about having the script itself. It's also about, I'm just checking that everything is in there and it sounds nice. So it's not just having the samples and the script itself, is I guess what script is applied. So if we look at the script, the KSP script, I mean, once we applied it and once we prepared everything, we can have a quick look at the KSP. And this is this instrument type X. And if we look at this KSP itself, then we can see that in the script, it's literally actually optimized for being used in Maschine Plus. It checks if Kontakt is headless. Headless meaning that there is no GUI representation like it would be on Maschine Plus. And if that is the case, so it checks this constant. If this constant is false, meaning it's not headless, then it does all this GUI stuff, right? It creates the performance view that, like, if we go over here, we have this performance view. If you give it, it sets color, it does all this stuff. It sets the height, and then it starts to kind of do all the GUI stuff, like showing the different sliders and positioning the sliders, and even more than that, like if I now change the cutoff knob or the resonance or whatever, you see that the labels are being changed over here. So it's doing all these GUI operations that if it was on Maschine Plus, it just wouldn't do them. Like, it checks for all this stuff and there would be no GUI interaction. Basically, it would load something like, in theory, like this. You play it, but you have all the host automation parameters and on the left over here. So this is what's really important, because this would only show, right, with your eyes if there is a GUI, but it doesn't mean that these parameters do not exist. They, in any case, whether you're on headless or not, they exist as host automation parameters. So these will show up on your Maschine Plus, and you can manipulate the instruments exactly the same as if it had a GUI by manipulating the knobs on the Maschine Plus. So again, it's exactly the same, but you kind of need to make sure that you have this functionality. So with this script, it really gives you that functionality. So you have this. Now all that is left is to basically save this instrument, so you can put it anywhere you want. Maybe I can make a new folder, awesome thing, create, and then it's just really important that once you give it a name, awesome thing, it's really important that you save patch plus samples. This is the only way that it would load on your Maschine Plus. If you want to put it on Maschine Plus, Monolith will not load. To further kind of give performance to the instrument, like you can compress the samples. Let's see how much it helps us over here. So right now we're loading 17 and something megabytes into memory. Let's compress the samples. Again, it takes another minute. Yeah, less than a minute. But if we had the 20, then it would take more. Yeah, we saved just a tiny bit of space over here on what it's loaded. But again, I only loaded 4 of the instruments, right? In any case, once you have it, where did I put it? Somewhere here, right? What did I even call it? So was it called awesome thing, right? Didn't I put it over here? Okay, whatever. Once you have awesome thing, no, but this bothers me now. Where did I put it? Awesome thing. Okay, I see. So it's one folder above. No, where did I? Anyways, I don't want to waste your time. Let's pretend it's this one, Fugchoir. Once you have your synth, you just copy it onto your Maschine Plus. Remember again, it has to go into the sounds subfolder of Maschine 2. So you go into the SD card, Maschine 2, not into Kontakt. Maschine 2, sounds. This is where you put all your custom Kontakt instruments. You paste it over here. Once it's pasted, this is probably pretty big. I should cancel this. Once it's pasted, you disconnect your SD card, rescan on your Maschine Plus, and you will see your instrument. So again, this has been done with these particular samples, right? The ones that I put into the framework at the moment. And I applied this particular KSP script that I showed you, this instrument type X, what I called. But if you download the framework, there are other other shells that are fitting for Maschine Plus in here, and they all kind of use the same concept of hiding and showing the GUI, depending on whether you are on desktop or headless Maschine Plus. And it also uses the same concept of adapting to the number of groups that you have. I guess this is something that we didn't really show. The first knob over here is the source knob. So if I go inside, then each and every one of these, depending on the number of groups that you have, it will scale to the number, the range of this knob will scale to that number. Sorry for the little confusion over there. So if I take, for example, and the same is with all the different shells that are provided in the framework. So if I take this one, for example, and apply this one instead, it will still function exactly the same. It will still know that, there we go. That it has 4 sources, as you can see. Because it basically takes the number of sources that are available the number of groups that are available, and from there it kind of does its magic. So anything would fit, right? So you could just pretty much go over here just to kind of drive it home, go into samples, and instead of having, I could literally just delete it. Well, maybe I shouldn't delete it now that it's loaded. But you could just, in theory, delete it. Go back to your downloads. Take, I don't know, different 4, right? Or take 5, take 6. Take a different number. Put it over here. Run it. Take other samples completely, right? But like the point being that this script now that we made over here, along with the KSP script that is provided, or the different ones that are provided, they're all completely generic, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't care who your samples are. It just cares that it follows the instructions, and the instructions tell it to go look in this particular area and just run the instructions on what you find in that area, right? So as long as you kind of correspond correctly to what you tell it to do, so you're telling it that the sample name location is 4 in the token list, and that the root key, it's 3, and that the root key is 4. As long as you correspond to everything, then you can make super quickly Maschine plus instruments. You can basically just take tons of different folders, make an instrument per folder, basically what I've done over here. So if you go to my little my Maschine plus, I have already, so these are all built with this kind of same framework, and these are samples from a friend, and these are also built super quickly just by the same framework. So again, you send me all his bass sounds, boom, make an instrument super quickly, right? Put it in there, press play, and run it. And synthetic sounds, whatever, you can just basically see by these names. So this is the gist of it. This is the idea. Again, the link is in the description for the video. The second relevant link for this framework is also going to be in the description for this video, and this is the actual repository on GitHub where you can find the framework itself, open issues, fork it, and add your own code to it, or whatever you want to do. So thanks for having a look. Have a go with this. This is super fun. Once you get the hang of it, it's like, it's a breeze to just make Kontakt instruments that are fun and really highly enjoyably playable on Maschine Plus. See you later.